All right, co-main event at heavyweight, Alexander Romanov, minus 150. Alexander Volkov is plus 130. So Romanov was kind of the cat's meow, Bri, before Sergey Pavlovich arrived, but he dropped a majority to Marcin Tybura last August, temporarily halted his rise. As I mentioned, was 16-0 going in. And on the other side, been a while for Volkov. He'd been a real workhorse for a while, but the knockout of Biggie Boy was all the way last June. Volkov has headlined 7 times for the UFC. He's got a 3-rounder this weekend. Brian Petrie, who do you like?
Do you guys hear that? I don't know if... Yeah, that's the hype train with Romanov flying off the fucking tracks. I mean, this guy did not look good against Tybura. Tybura, a very good fighter. But man, cardio problem, stand-up problem. His only way to win is a donkey punch it. Yeah, he's got a couple submissions against low-level guys who are no longer in the UFC. But that was more strength as opposed to technique. If we're being honest, if you look at his record of who he led up to by Tybura, not very impressive. Okay, coming outside the UFC, had a lot of hype, physically looked good against Tybura, but just fell short. Then you got Volkov, right? This guy he's just fucking fought everybody, right? Thicked up, added some frame, put a couple C's on his name there, thicked up a little bit, thumping now, knocking people out, knocked out Biggie Boy, right? Takedowns are not as easy to come by as they used to be. Him being a plus number here, I think, is just stealing money. I think it's stealing money. I think he'll get taken down maybe in the first round, but he's going to get back up. This guy fought Curtis Blades and got up from Curtis Blades multiple times on short notice. He's going to get up from Romanov. Romanov's going to tire. I like Volkov, but maybe a late TKO, possibly a decision. Romanov does seem to be tough, but plus 130, I mean, give it to me all day long.
Ken-Flo, I just thought of this, and I hope this doesn't sound like we're piling on Seattle Gone. I love his brother David. I really like Seattle himself, but I remember when Alexander Volkov fought Curtis Blades with a COVID-19 backdrop, and he was so upset that he wasn't able to get the requisite wrestling training partners for that training camp. And, that upsetting it, like it felt real, like he just, he was, and he tried like hell, to Brian's point, right? But he knew he didn't have the right training camp for that type of fight. Winnable fight for him this weekend against Alexander Romanov. Safest bet is probably Buffer to say Romanov, but we need to pick on the co-main event. Ken-Flo, which way you go?
Gosh, this is a tough one for me, and Brian didn't make it any easier. I'm leaning towards Romanov. I do think that his last performance was, not abysmal, but not fun, not great. I think that I hope that he looks at that as an opportunity to really come with something different. And kind of lights a fire under his ass to get a much better performance. Volkov, I think that there's no question on the feet. He's going to be a problem. He's going to be dangerous, and will certainly have the advantage there. But I think if Romanov is able to time his takedowns properly, have proper control, pace himself well, he can win this fight. I think, again, it takes a long time to get your wrestling and grappling in order. Is Volkov there yet? I don't know. Maybe. But I'm still leaning towards Romanov until further notice. But maybe I change that later in the week as I see weigh-ins and things like that.
All right, and we will lead with Kenny Florian on the main event. And to bide you a little time, I will tell you that Rashad Evans and I were talking on set about the fact that you don't have any white hairs in your beard or your hair and that you don't dye it. So Rashad and I were talking about that on set. I just said that to get a smirk from you. Bide you a little time because you're going to lead the main event. Petr Yan minus 215, Merab Dvalishvili plus 185. So Petr Yan goes 0-2 last year, Kenny. He loses to Aljamain Sterling and Sugar Sean O'Malley, some suggesting it's a real bad time to be fighting Petr Yan. That is Merab Dvalishvili's reality this weekend. We need to pick matchup of bantamweight contenders. Ken-Flo, lead the dance. Who do you got?
Yeah, all the guys give me a hard time. They think I dye my beard and hair. I do have some white hairs in my head every once in a while. Props to my dad for giving me dark hair and not having any white yet. But all right, this is a great fight, man. This is a tough one to pick. I think Petr Yan is a guy who has a ton of experience. I think that he's going to have a big striking advantage in this fight. I also think if someone gets a finish, it's most likely Petr Yan. Very few guys can hit with the kind of power and accuracy that Yan has. There's a couple things that bother me about this, though. First of all, Yan doesn't have the best footwork. And if you're a guy like a Merab Dvalishvili who wants to time your takedowns, those are the kind of strikers that you want to go against. Someone who has big time power, but still is a little flat footed. I think that will help Merab. I do think Jan, though, will have that speed advantage. So very interesting matchup in that regard. He also has a ton of 5-round experience, big fight experience as well. Merab not there yet, but when I look at that, okay, well, how is Merab going to perform when it comes down to pressure? I think he's going to be just fine. How is he going to deal with 25 minutes in the octagon? I think he's going to be just fine there as well. Everyone talks about his conditioning literally being a weapon, and I believe that to be the case. Can he get a finish over Petr Yan? Perhaps. I think Jan is more likely to get the finish. But I like Merab here. I think he can be consistent at the very least and getting to that clinch, doing something similar that he did to Jose Aldo, hit those takedowns over time and control Petr Yan or slow down Petr Yan. I like Merab here. It's going to be close. It's going to be very interesting. But give me Merab Dvalishvili for the win.
Ken-Flo just sick of fading Longos, guys.
Yeah.
Brian, who do you have?
What a fight. What a main event. Such a tough fight to pick. I cannot sit here and see a fighter as good as Petr Yan losing 3 in a row. I just can't do it. And then I look at Merab, who's an absolute machine going at plus 185. It's like, whoa, what are we doing here? His biggest win was Aldo's last time out. He kind of stalled a little bit. Wasn't the greatest Merab performance. That is Aldo, though. Great takedown defense, dangerous on the feet. He did what he had to do to win, which is fine, right? I thought he won. No complaints here. The common factor here is Aldo. Aldo fought Jan twice. He's in Vegas training Merab. And so they both kind of know their game plans, whatever. Ray said he's not been a ton of a part of this camp all that much, which I think is going to hinder Merab a little bit. Ray's a genius mind. And also, he's already prepared for Jan twice, and they got 2 wins. I know the one's a legal knee, whatever, but a solid win the last time out. Merab and Aljo, the differences are not the same fighter. Aljo holds you down. He takes you down. He holds you down. If you try to get back up, I'm going to take your back. Merab will take you down 15 times in one round, not give a shit, right? He's not that dangerous threat to take your back, to submit you. He's got some decent ground and pound, but his cardio is the weapon. But we're dealing with Petr Yan here, who is definitely not a guy who lacks cardio, definitely a guy who doesn't lack motivation, toughness, all those things. And you have an advantage. Merab has the advantage with Aljo, but I also think Jan has the advantage because he's been in there with Aljo. Aljo's probably big brothered Merab multiple times throughout his career. Maybe not now. Aljo's also a very big 135. Merab, I think, is perfect 135, maybe even a little tight on the smaller side. Merab's a good number. If you're rocking Merab, plus 185 is a good number. I'm stalling here because I'm picking Petr Yan, and I don't want that knock at the door from Ray Longo. No one tell Ray Longo this. I just can't see him losing 3 in the row. The number is a little high for me. I wish the number was closer. I think it's going to be a very close fight. But in those clinches, Jan is dangerous, and he's strong, man. He really is. And I can see an elbow coming, a knee up the middle, and I'm rooting for Merab. I think he's a great character, and obviously he's Team Longo, that who we root for, but yeah, I'm gonna pick Jan. Yeah, I'm gonna pick Jan. Yeah.
And there's all sorts of different ways you can handicap, right? And intangibly, like Brian and I maybe would be more likely to lean into an intangible. Like, dude, Petr Yan's not gonna lose 3 fights in a row than maybe Ken-Flo would, but right. But there is something to that when you've been gambling for 25, 30 years, maybe bet against the streak.